Hey everybody, about a month ago we had some really bad windstorms coming through my area, and I thought for sure that the power was going to go out, and amazingly it did not. However, I did spend about an hour cobbling together a system I'd like to show you. And you can see it right here, and I'll flip the camera in just a moment. But basically what we have right here is we have the guts to the mobile system that I designed for traveling around the country. I've included multiple charging options and I made it really easy to set up and break down. And I'll show you what I did. All right, here's a really simple tour of the system. What we're looking at here is 8 Nissan Leaf cells. These cells used to be really easy to get. I purchased 8 of these cells about 3 years ago. They're still working great. And I installed some simplistic handles on them and some little feet here so that way they can sit in the trunk or the boot of a car and you can, not damage the floor. We're looking at, including degradation, around 4 kilowatts of total energy storage here. And I'm using these quick connectors. It's a 500 watt, 12 volt Victron Phoenix pure sine wave inverter. I think this is a really good kind of budget 12 volt inverter. And I'm down here, I'm using the Victron 7510 MPPT controller, which I love. You can control it with Bluetooth. And the thing is that I've really want to emphasize here is that these are actually 8 volt nominal cells. Nearly fully charged, they're actually 8.2. You wind up with a bit of a funky voltage here, charging these things to 16.2 to get them up into that, mostly charged state is actually a fair bit higher than you can typically charge or, charge up to or start discharging from for a 12 volt system. Victron, however, is amazing in that their hardware has a wider available voltage input-output spectrum compared to almost any other system I have found. I can actually control this controller to put out up to 16.2 volts, I think even a little higher, to charge a kind of off chemistry, a kind of off spec voltage for 12 volt. This Victron 500 watt 12 volt inverter also can easily and happily run on the slightly higher voltage of these batteries. It's a really interesting setup where at the time these Nissan Leaf cells were plentiful, they were affordable, and now they're much harder to get, and I think there are much better alternatives. However, using this Victron hardware, which I consider to be, pretty good, I'm able to use these batteries as kind of a weird in-between voltage between 12 and 24 volt, running them as 16 volt cells. I have really loved this combination, and for a portable kind of, quick and dirty bank I can just unhook and grab and go throw in the car, I think these things are awesome. How I have the system set up right now in the event of a grid down situation to be able to give me 4 kilowatts or roughly 4 kilowatts of backup power at 500 watts of pure sine, which is enough to run my small chest refrigerator and my chest freezer. I set this up just in case of a day or two without power in case some trees blew down on the power line. How I have it set up for being on grid charging is I have this really inexpensive 5 amp 24 volt charger. It's actually you can actually adjust the voltage, but it maxes out right around 24 volts. That 24 volts is a high enough voltage. I'm able to run it directly through the Victron, and the Victron is able to turn this into the 16.2 I need to charge these batteries. If I just simply ran 12 volts into the charge controller, the voltage coming into the controller needs to be a little bit higher than the voltage coming out to charge the batteries. So this system will not actually charge effectively inside of a car with 13.5 volts coming out of the 12 volt adapter. These guys right here. This is only going to be 13.5 volts or so. I have found that this Victron controller needs at least 5 to 6 volts higher input voltage for it to really be able to effectively get to the 16.2 I need for this. So for this instance, I have a very inexpensive 12 to 24 volt buck converter. I think I paid $11 for this. It's rated for, I think, 10 amps. I would simply swap so to put this back in the vehicle, I would swap this grid powered 24 volt power supply. I remove that from the Victron. I would plug the output of the buck converter into the Victron. And now as I'm driving with a little bit of efficiency losses, now when I'm driving though, I'm able to take a 12-volt charge from the car, boost it to 24, and then charge these 16-volt batteries. I know it's a further step than most people are accustomed to, but the whole point of me setting up a system like this is that I'm interested in having components that I can use in as many contexts as humanly possible. I could throw this small system right here in a cabin or something like that. I could hook it up to solar. I can charge it from a car, and I was able to use pretty inexpensive batteries that I was able to get a good price for. Another charging option that you can use on the car, in a car or stationary, is to use one of these step up, step down buck converters. And this unit here is pretty amazing, and I don't need to use it right now, but this is my backup unit for this or automobile charging. So you can even, with these 12 volt converters here, if you were in a rough spot with this system, I could go and I could grab a battery out of a car, come down here, hook it up to this. It's going to draw some amperage out of the car battery, boost it to 24 volts, run the Victron, run the gear that I need to charge, to get some AC output. The only downside though is that you won't be able to start your car if you take too much power out of it. However, if you do bring a car battery out of a running vehicle and set it here on the ground and hook it up to this buck converter, you need to be careful not to run this for very long, lest you drop the voltage of this car battery too low to start the vehicle to recharge the battery. I'm just thinking, redundancy here. And vehicular batteries are not particularly well suited for a deep cycle situation. So it's something to consider. So that's just it. This is the little emergency system I slapped together in about an hour after I had to go out to the vehicle and grab the Victron hardware, and I had to pull these batteries out of the back of a closet. But I really love it. It gave me a lot of confidence to know that I was going to be in good shape. If the grid went down, I could keep my food cold. And here's another fun dorky thing. Here's my outdoor boots. I was running the sawmill yesterday, and I wound up getting boots wound up getting soggy. I've discovered if you use a hairdryer on the low setting and just shoot it into the boot, it doesn't really dry out the toes very well of the boot. So what you can do is I have the crevice tool for a shop vac, and see how it's got that shape? See how it's got that angle shape on it? You can put this crevice tool into the boot with that facing forward, like so. Then you can put your hairdryer in there, turn it on low, and now the hairdryer is blowing into the toe of the boot, and you can just let this run for a minute and dry your boots out. Look at this. Isn't this so funny? Yeah, we don't like wet boots, do we? Anyway, that's kind of embarrassing. And the things we do to have dry boots. That's it. I hope you like the system.